Hi everyone. If you've been watching the Florida housing market over the last year, you probably noticed something. It felt different. After years of frenzy, multiple offers, and prices skyrocketing overnight, 2025 felt like the market finally took a deep breath. For a lot of the year, things definitely slowed down. If you tried to buy a home, you felt the pinch of high mortgage rates. If you were trying to sell, you might have noticed your neighbor's homes sitting on the market a little longer than usual. It was a year of mixed signals. But here's the headline I want you to take away today. While 2025 was a year of cooling down, we are finally seeing the early signs of a rebound. Today, I want to talk you through exactly what happened in 2025, why the market acted the way it did, and most importantly, what the latest numbers, especially from our international buyers, are telling us about where we're headed in 2026. Let's start with the big picture. Why did things slow down? It wasn't just one thing. It was a combination of forces. Locally here in Florida, we all know the challenges. Insurance costs have been a major topic of conversation at every dinner table. Property taxes and general affordability pressures made a lot of buyers hit the pause button. But it wasn't just a Florida problem. We were feeling the effects of a cooling global economy. Think of the real estate market like a sailboat. For a few years, we had the wind at our backs. But in 2025, the wind shifted. Global economic growth slowed down. There were trade tensions and a lot of uncertainty around the world. When the people are uncertain about the economy or their jobs, they don't usually rush out to make the biggest purchase of their lives. That hesitation softened demand right here in our backyard. Because of this slower demand, homes stayed on the market longer. And this is a really important point I want to clarify, because I hear this confusion a lot. You might see headlines saying, inventory is rising, and think, oh no, everyone is panicked selling. That is not what happened in 2025. Inventory didn't go up because a flood of new sellers rushed to list their homes. It went up because the homes that were listed just took longer to sell. It's what we call stale inventory. It accumulates not because of a sell-off, but because buyers are taking their time. It's a classic case of the market moving from a sprint to a walk. However, since the official survey period ended in mid-2025, we have started to see mortgage rates ease up. And just like that, the activity is picking back up. It's not a tsunami of buyers yet, but it's a steady stream. That wait-and-see attitude is starting to shift into, let's make a move. Now let's talk about who's actually buying. For the last couple of years, the big story was domestic migration. People moving here from New York, California, Illinois, and so on. That wave peaked in 2025. It has cooled off since then. But I want to be clear. People are still moving here. The numbers are still higher than they were before the pandemic. But that domestic rush isn't the only engine driving our market anymore. The really exciting news for 2025 is the comeback of the international buyer. After being very quiet for a while, international activity has jumped significantly. In fact, between late 2024 and mid-2025, the number of homes bought by international buyers increased by 50%. That's a massive jump. To put that in perspective, the dollar volume, the total amount of money these international buyers spent, climbed to over $10 billion. That is up from about $7 billion the year before. Now, we are still not quite back to the peak levels we saw in 2020, but this surge is a huge vote of confidence. It tells us that global investors still view Florida as a safe, profitable, and desirable place to park their money. So, who are these buyers? Where are they coming from? If you've been in Florida for any length of time, the answer won't surprise you. The Canadians are back in a big way. They're leading the pack by a wide margin. In fact, Canadian buyers nearly doubled their spending compared to the previous year, accounting for about $1.9 billion in sales. The snowbirds are definitely returning to the nest. But here's where it gets interesting. We saw a massive resurgence from Colombian buyers. They actually moved into the number 2 spot, overtaking Brazil. They spent nearly $1 billion on Florida real estate last year. That is a huge leap from just $300 million the year before. Why Colombia? Well, often when there's political or economic uncertainty in South America, buyers look for stability. And nothing screams stability and investment safety quite like Florida real estate. Brazil is still a major player, coming in third. And we saw Mexico return to the top 5 as well. It's also worth noting that buyers from Europe and the UK are still here. But the Latin American and Caribbean buyers are really the ones driving the bus right now, making up 45% of all international purchases. Now you might be wondering, okay, but where are they buying? Is this happening in my neighborhood? Well, real estate is always local, and international real estate is very local. If you live in South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, you are seeing the bulk of this action. 45% of all international purchases happened in this metro area. It's heavily dominated by those buyers from Latin America and the Caribbean. If you move up to Central Florida, specifically the Orlando, Kissimmee area, you also see a strong concentration of Latin American buyers, largely driven by the tourism industry and the vacation home market there. But if you go over to the West Coast, Tampa Bay, Southwest Florida, Naples, the demographic shifts. That is where Canadians and Europeans tend to buy. In fact, down in the Naples and Marco Island area, over half of the international buyers were Canadians. They love that Gulf Coast lifestyle. So what does all this mean for prices? This is the question every seller asks me. Did prices crash? The answer is no, they didn't crash. But they did adjust. For the first time in a while, the median sale price for international buyers actually decreased slightly. It dropped from about $470,000 down to $442,000. Now, don't panic. This doesn't necessarily mean property values plummeted. It often means that buyers are simply choosing slightly more affordable homes, or that they have a little more negotiating power than they did 2 years ago. Interestingly, the median price for international buyers is still about 12% higher than the median price for the general market. So these foreign investors are still buying premium properties, just perhaps with a little more price sensitivity than before. We also notice a shift in the price points. The biggest chunk of these sales, about 40%, happened in the $250,000 to $500,000 range. But we also saw a surprising uptick in buyers looking for properties under $150,000. This suggests that some investors are hunting for bargains or fixer-uppers, looking for value in a market that has become quite expensive. So let's wrap this up and look at the road ahead. If you're a buyer, this cooling period has actually been a window of opportunity. You have had less competition, more choices, and a little more time to make a decision. And with interest rates showing signs of coming down, your buying power might be improving as we head deeper into the year. If you're a seller, the days of putting a sign in the yard and getting 10 offers over asking price in an hour are mostly behind us. You have to be realistic. Pricing your home correctly right out of the gate is more important now than it's been in years. The buyers are out there, especially now that the international crowd is back, but they are price conscious and they are doing their homework. The bottom line is this: Florida's market is resilient. We faced headwinds in 2025 from the global economy and interest rates, but we didn't break. We just paused. And with steady migration, a booming return of international capital, and easing mortgage rates, the arrow is pointing up. We are moving from a wait and see market to a time to move market. As always, I keep a close eye on these numbers every single day. If you're thinking about making a move in 2026, or if you just want to know what your home is worth in this shifting landscape, reach out to me. Let's look at your specific neighborhood and figure out the best strategy for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.